Hello, good morning. It's a very quiet morning today. It's overcast here. There's clouds. I can hear the birds singing. Maybe we'll be joined by some parrots. You know, since we're still here in Tenerife at the moment. We're still in the Corona period, which means that the flights are not coming into Tenerife. So the whole island has become even more quiet than it usually is. And especially this morning, it's wind still, and you can just hear the birds singing. Listen. Okay. So we're now in module 6, which is all about the different chronic diseases that a plant-based diet can help. And one of them is high blood pressure, or also known as hypertension. Now, you know, everybody's heard of blood pressure. Whenever we go to the doctors, we get our blood pressure taken. When we're in hospital, I know when I broke my leg in Germany, every day the nurse would come and take my blood pressure. I really had no idea how important or how fatal high blood pressure can be. I wanted to make this particular session about it because it's just one of those, I think, like a silent killer. Most people don't realize they have high blood pressure if they've got high blood pressure. And it's responsible for the death of 9 million people worldwide. In America, 78 million people have high blood pressure. It's a really common ailment, or it's a real common condition that is caused largely by our diets and lifestyle. Scientists have known since the 1920s, actually, which is quite incredible when you think about it, that one of the major causes of high blood pressure is diet. Researchers in the 1920s went to some rural villages in Kenya, and they did lots of tests to find out the blood pressure of the people living there. And they found they had incredibly low blood pressure, including the oldest of the village. So normally our blood pressure increases as we get older. But when researchers went to this village in Kenya, they found that actually the older people became, the lower their blood pressure got. So it was very interesting, and they decided, they looked at how the villagers were living and what they were doing differently. Another incredible thing about this village was there was no cases of heart disease. So these villagers were basically living on a low-fat plant-based diet. With very little meat, and this seemed to be promoting their health in so many ways. The same findings were found in the China study, which was a study carried out by Colin Campbell, and in that study he found places in rural China, exactly the same thing. The places where people were eating the traditional Chinese diet of rice and vegetables, so plant-based diet, tend to have very, very low blood pressure, almost no cases of heart disease, and all these other lifestyle diseases that are right across the UK and America and all of the Western world. So high blood pressure, hypertension is a very serious condition, and it's something I didn't realize. So what are the causes? What do we know about what really causes, or the main causes of high blood pressure? Well, a diet high in salt and or fat and cholesterol, so basically all of the things we find in a meat and dairy based diet. If you've got chronic conditions like kidney and hormone problems, diabetes and high cholesterol, you're also far more likely to have high blood pressure as well. Not doing enough exercise is a major cause of high blood pressure. In the West, so here where, in the UK, older age. So basically in the West, the older we are, the higher our blood pressure becomes. Being overweight or obese is a major risk factor. Also, race is a factor. Some races seem to suffer more from high blood pressure than others. Stress and smoking or drinking too much alcohol. So those are the major risk factors. And just before we progress, I'd like to remind you, please read the text below because I've had a lot more details. So a normal blood pressure, our blood pressure is regarded as normal if it's 120/80. Anything above that, and we start to wander into the realm of high blood pressure, which of course we want to avoid. So now we've looked at some of the causes of high blood pressure, it's time to think about what are the things that we can do to help lower our blood pressure. So there are certain things we can do. Let's see what they are. They are fasting. So when we decided to go on a fast, our blood pressure drops, and when we start eating again, our blood pressure does rise, but it usually settles below where it was previously. Losing weight, this is a really good one, especially if we're obese. Losing weight causes blood pressure to drop, and there's a strong correlation between weight and hypertension. Adding fruit and vegetables. So regardless of what our diet is, just by adding fruits and vegetables to any diet will reduce blood pressure. If we're drinkers, obviously reducing alcohol consumption will help reduce blood pressure. Salt is also a major issue when it comes to blood pressure, and we should always try to remember that salt is actually not very good for us, so we should always try to keep our salt intake low. We don't actually need a lot of salt. Cutting out meat from our diet will help to reduce blood pressure. And of course, exercise is always seems to be on the list. Exercise is also shown to reduce blood pressure. But of all those things, the most effective one thing that we can do is to transition to a low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet. This is the one change that will make the biggest impact to lowering our blood pressure, which is why we're on this course. This is what we want to do. So it's just another reason to be enthusiastic about this new diet we're going on. And remember, it's also delicious and not horrible. So if we've known since 1920s that a plant-based diet will lower blood pressure, why is it that this is not common knowledge? Well, we always keep coming back to that same vicious circle of the food companies making us ill and the pharmaceutical companies making us dependent on drugs for the rest of our lives. It's not the doctors are just doing their job. They don't believe people will change their habits, and in a lot of cases that's true, but we're just not given enough information. We're just not given the truth. It's far easier to take a pill and think that our problem is solved. So yeah, we always seem to come back to that same loop. So there are lots we can do as far as which vegetables are good and which vegetables are not. Some vegetables are better than others, but you know, if we can move to a whole food plant-based diet, it's definitely going to reduce our blood pressure. And it can be so effective actually that if you're taking blood pressure medication and you want to transition to a plant-based diet, it's best to actually do this together with your doctor, because a plant-based diet is sometimes so effective in reducing blood pressure that it can cause people to become ill because they're also taking the medication. So if you are thinking of doing it, I would definitely advise you to seek some advice, medical advice, and not to do it alone. For those who have not got high blood pressure or are not taking medication, everything we can do, the things that I've mentioned, will help us prevent us from getting high blood pressure, which in turn will help prevent us getting all the other things, diabetes, heart disease, and so on. There's quite a lot of information on this page. I spent the whole of yesterday afternoon writing this out. and researching it. So as always, I don't remember everything in these videos. I just try to get the core message across. So if you want further information, see the text below. And I've also added some links to good resources where you can find out more about the benefits of a plant-based diet and high blood pressure. Thank you for being here with me this morning, and I'll see you in the next session.